Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now I was gonna do this bit of filming on my 3 spawn figures with an added bit of technology, but unfortunately I'm not a technical guy. I can't work it out and I can't get the thing to work. It was going to have the camera mounted on a tripod with a bit of technology, as I call it, that would give off various coloured lights to create the mood and effect. So I'm not going to try and get into it anymore. I'm just going to shoot it as I standardly do and go into some poses, not only with him but these other figures here. And I'll just show you these guys quickly. On the right you have Raven, and on the left you have Ninja Spawn. Let's get back to Spawn, the blue variant. And interestingly enough, I had the opportunity to buy the normal Spawn, but because this guy was so cheap, he was $11.99, normally retailing at $28.99, I had to have him. So he's being posed out with a McFarlane's weapon from the accessory pack, and that sword down there is the only accessory he came with. But it doesn't matter, when you've got the accessory pack, and I've posed him with every weapon from that pack, he looks awesome. So I'm only going to show you with 2 kinds of weapons, and you'll see that other weapon later on. I'll just come around the back of him and show you the DVD, which I've had since 1997, and it's the director's cut. It starred Michael J. White, or Jai White, and I love that film. And visually it's still a very powerful film, but I have heard on the grapevine, I can't confirm it, but I have heard that Todd McFarlane is going to revisit the subject, and hopefully Michael Jai White will be playing that role again. So I'll come in close one more time and then I'll pose him in something different. Now with his eyes, I actually thought they glowed in the dark, because I did hear that some of these Spawn figures, their eyes do glow in the dark, but this one doesn't. So I'm just going to try and get around the back and show you the cloak. And I'm a big fan of sculpted cloaks. I don't mind the wide ones and I don't mind the cloth ones, but for the artistry of these cloaks, this is my preference, and I do like that cloak. So we'll come back round the front, just show you that slowly to create the mood. And we'll get him into another pose. So this is your standard square on pose, nothing particularly fantastic, but I find with certain figures, if they've got a great image, you don't have to overpose them really. I'm just doing basic stuff here, giving you a few ideas hopefully. This weapon here is I think it's the biggest in my accessory pack. So I find that the bigger the weapon, the more dramatic the actual pose can become. But I've posed him actually with the bazooka. You won't see that today, but I'm going to stick with 2 weapons, this one and another one. I won't tell you yet, you'll see it at the end. But I just like the look of this figure. And as I said before, I could have bought the proper Spawn variant, the red one and the white with the red cloaks, as I say, but at $11.99 I just had to get him. So let's try him with a different look. So I haven't really changed the pose. All I've done is holstered that sword into the chainmail belt, or the chain belt. I brought it more forward on the body, but normally I have it more behind, so you only see the hilt of the sword. But I wanted to see where I attached it to. But overall, that's the look I've had in the past, and I quite like that. So we'll move on to another one. So here's your next one. Opened out the pose a little bit more so you can see more of that weaponry. Quite like that look. He seems to have a bit of an attitude, which I like about this figure. I really do like that look. And what I'll do is I'm going to do the old on one knee pose. So see if I can get away with it, because with a sculpted cloak you haven't got the kind of maneuverability to do that, but I'll have a go at it. Might look naff, but we'll have a go. I like that angle there. So let's come back to the front and try the one knee pose. I kind of call it my signature pose. Not that it is, but we'll have a go. Well, I had a go at it, and I truly can say this was a bloody fiddly one. And it's mainly to do with that cloak, really. It's so big and kind of cumbersome. It was difficult to get it the way I wanted to, but it's close enough. I suppose if I went back to this pose and messed about with it and try and get those angles right, it might come off. But this is the best I can do, and I didn't want to spend too long messing about. So we're going to finish with the final pose, this final display pose with some different weapons. So stay tuned. So this is the new weaponry I've put in with him. Actually, I've done it in the past, and I do prefer these weapons with him. In fact, it's my favourite thing I like to see with him holding, the Kalashnikovs. I've tried to create movement, but I'm very tough on myself when it comes to poses. I don't really like it. I have created movement. I wanted to show you the weapon, so I'm going to try another pose and see if that comes off better. So this is an improvement, but not much of an improvement. Like I said, I've got high standards. I call this more like my poster pose. So you imagine going to the cinema and seeing a poster of him looking like this. You kind of would like it, but I'm going to try and get a better pose than this. Before I do, I just want to get some angle shots. It's not bad from that angle. And it's not bad as you come on to the other side. Don't want to obscure his face though, so that's kind of not too bad there. Coming a bit closer. I haven't really posed this figure before on camera, but I do like the way he comes across. So let's hold off on this pose for now and see if we can come up with something better. That's better, but let's pose it in another manner. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly test this one out. This wasn't the pose I was originally going to go for, but I just wanted to drop those Kalashnikovs and just see what that effect was like. Okay, let's get to that pose now. Enough time is a wasting. I've got two other figures to cover in this review. Quite like this one. Going more towards the ballpark. More of an action pose. Still, there is room for improvement. I'm going to drop the rifle on the left side to see what that looks like. So let's drop that rifle on the left side. Yeah, I've dropped the rifle on the left side. Prefer this one. There's a bit of movement there. Okay, let's go and do one more and then let's move on to the other figures. So, this is the way he's going to look when he goes back in my display, and I actually like it. I have an old saying, less is more. I was getting too fiddly with him, and with that cloak it can be a bit restrictive on what you try to do with him. And I know me, I'll put him back into display and I'll probably think, oh, I can do that better, but I'm not going to do it today. I'm happy with this pose. And that's your blue variant Spawn. Retailing at $11.99, was originally $28.99, I think, these figures. on normally, but I will pick up your traditional spawn at some point. I'll come in close on that. Nice figure, attitude. So on that note, let's pause it and move to the other figures I've got of spawn. I think I'll start with Raven. So this is Raven. Now, when I saw this figure, it was full retail price and I wasn't actually going to bother with it, to be honest. I would have bought it anyway at that price, but I wasn't that into really pursuing getting this figure. But when it finally dropped, I think it was around 13 or 14.99, and looking at those eyes, I bought it mainly because I thought those eyes do glow at night, but they don't. I just love this figure. It's my favorite of the three you're going to see today. Very ancient looking, and I've posed him in so many ways. Not going to get all those poses in today on footage, but I'm going to show you a couple with him just to show you what he can do. But what I'm going to do before I get into that posing is I'm going to turn him around and show you that sculpted cape, because it's worth a mention. So let's get that cape on camera. So that's the cape, and I do love that. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the sculpted capes. I love the artistry. There you go. And even though they can be difficult to work with because they're set in stone, I will always try and get these sort of figures over cloth or wide capes. In my imagination, I know you probably can't see it, he kind of reminds me of an ancient form of Batman, the Dark Knight, from behind, but of course he isn't. I'd love him to do something like this along the Batman lines, but let's turn him around and see what poses we can get him into. So this isn't not a bad one. Got him crouching down a little bit, and I think this weaponry, which I love, the axe and the I can't really tell you what that weapon is, but I think this weaponry helps to enhance this figure. That's coming to a different angle. Move it around. Let's look at the face. You can even see his teeth. Love it. Let's try another one. Like this one better. Lifted that arm above his head so you can see that flare on that weapon. Do like that. I'm going to change his angle though and see what that looks like. Stay tuned. Yeah, I kind of turned him sideways on. Prefer this one over the last one. Not too bad. Things are racing into my head right now, but I don't want to spend too long posing figures. We're getting up into the 13-minute mark, but can't help myself sometimes. So thanks for staying with me if you are tuned into this channel. I think I'll try one more, or two more, I won't lie. Let's see what happens next. So of course, you know I'm going to get him into the one knee pose. Not sure if I really like this one, to be honest, but I had to see if I could do it. I don't think I've ever put him on one knee, to be honest. The spawn figures are very well made, especially those cloaks, so it kind of makes it more fiddly and difficult to get the right look. I'm going to angle it slightly though and see if I can improve on that one knee pose, so stay with me. I think this would be my favourite if I was honest. I think I've squared him on. I've actually put that weapon in that hand because it was in that hand, and I basically swapped them around. So I would say this was my favourite one knee pose, but I'd like to sit down and pose him out in this one knee pose thing, because I like to get it right. It doesn't quite feel right, but I'm trying to give you guys an idea of articulation here. So I'm going to come to the end with this figure. I'm going to put him on his feet just to see what that looks like. Let's get another close up. But I do like the way these spawn figures are put together. And see where that chainmail belt was, or that chain belt was. I originally was going to get the spawn you've just seen and get his sword in there, because I've posed him with that sword and he does look good, but this is all about the weapons he came with. So let's do one more before we move on to ninja spawn. I'll just show you the height of that weapon from a distance, and then we're coming close for the last pose of Raven. Like the figure, my favourite one out of the trio. So I've kind of got him with a pose where there's a bit of movement going on. He's in a lower position posture wise. The arm on the left, I might change that, so I'm going to show you that now. But I wanted to try that pose just to see what that looks like. Yeah, that arm needs to be opened out, so let's have a go at that before we go to ninja spawn. So I would guess that's a better pose. I've opened out that arm on the left, raised up the height of the weapon, as you can see it's up there, but I quite like that dynamic effect. So that's Raven spawn. I just get some close angle shots. Coming close on those teeth. Okay guys, we're nearly at the end of this journey. He's been the most fiddly today. He was a bit like off balance when I tried certain poses. But at the end of the day, it's all about having fun and perseverance. So let's move on to ninja spawn, the final one. So this is the final figure to be posed today in this review, ninja spawn. This is how he currently looks in his pose in my collection. And as I said on the other two figures, they all retailed around $28.99. I think the first spawn was $11.99. I think the other one was more like $13 or $14.99. This one, I think he was more like 17, but it's still a bargain when you consider the 28 quid. And I love the spawn figures. These are all from the Mortal Kombat game, and I do like the way Todd McFarlane has put together these figures. He's made a great effort in giving you a lot of toy for your money. And I love those eyes. And again, on this figure, I thought his eyes glowed at night time, but they don't. I'll have to find out which one of those figures he released does do that, but I know it was a fact that he did do a few figures like that. So let's get him into his first pose and see what that looks like. This is your first one. And what I love about this figure, he can do this kind of stuff, which is great. Because obviously he's martial arts based and you want to see that kind of stuff. I actually done it with all the figures, but he's the best one to do it with. I'm going to change the dynamic of the swords though and see what that looks like. So there he is, slightly sideways on, opened out the sword position. Let's get a close up on that face again. I love the detail on this. I would say he was closest to your traditional spawn, because as you can see he's got the white markings there and the red there. He hasn't got a cloak of course, because on the back of that figure, and I'm going to turn him around, he's got his katana swords. But overall, I went for a craze of, when I was getting this figure, I was doing poses like this. So let's move it on to the next dynamic, and I'm going to take the katana swords off and put those other swords on the back. So those are katana swords. The pose is basically the same. I'll probably change the sword position in a sec. but you can just about make out the ones he's just had are now attached to the back of the figure. And I'd love to see him in this pose. I'm going to change the position of the swords though and show you what that looks like. Kind of a sideways on view. Change the position of the swords. He's all about martial arts, this guy. So I kind of like the way he's looking. Not a good shot there. Not bad there. But it's better from that angle. And I actually did pose him this way for a year. Not with these swords, but the ones that are attached to the back of the figure. And because of the way these figures are made, they're kind of like ratchet joints. He stayed up there with no issues. And I will get this guy back out again because I've got a figure called Ghost from the Batman world. And I actually had them sort of battling each other like this because he's also martial arts based. So I will be reviewing those two together again at some point. So let's do one more square on shot with this pose. So that's your square on shot. Coming in close. Not bad. Could be better, but I'm giving you guys an idea of what you can do with your own figures if you've got these. I'm after the actual Spawn figure, which looks like a cowboy, and I think that figure also can come with a horse. I've seen that online, but it was in my toy outlet at one time. I didn't pop on it. It was $28.99 and I would have bought it for that price, but I was concentrating on the three you're seeing today. But it's been popping up on the internet, on Amazon and eBay, so I might pick that up and bring him out with these guys in the future. So let's get him with both feet on the surface. So I've got him with both feet now on the floor or the platform, but you know what I mean. Look at them eyes. Look at that paint application. And when I watch reviews now, maybe it's my style because I'm an amateur, very amateur. They all talk about joint articulation, paint application. I'm a common tongue man. I just basically say, yeah, he poses, he's flexible, he does the job. And some people might pick at Todd McFarlane's release of figures or the use of the same body type and all that. It's all a bit deep for me. I've said this in the past. I keep it very basic in my mind. If it wows me, if it can pose, if it's got the look, and especially if the price is good, which all these figures are, and in most of my collection, as I said in my Grand Tour collectible video, if it's in the ballpark, if I can pose it, and if it's cheap enough, or if I get a bargain, I'm happy to just crack on. I leave all that sophisticated stuff to all you high-end collectors. I'm not criticising you when I say that. I think you pay the money, you have a right to your opinion. But for me, I don't get into it like that. We're a community of collectors and we all have our opinions. But one thing we have in common, we have a love for posing our figures or acquiring figures, talking about them on camera, and talking about some of the things we see and get for our money. But at the end of the day, it's all a bit of fun. So I'm going to come around the back of the figure and show you where I had the katanas and where I put the other swords. And there you go. That's the setup. So I'm going to bring all the figures out on camera one last time and wind it up. I've gone on to 24 minutes. So I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to make full use of these poses and have a chat about them. So let's bring them all out for the camera one last time. So guys, I just want to come in one last time on this film. The director's cut. Todd McFarlane directed it. There is talk of him returning to the subject. Hopefully Michael Jai White will be in there. I actually had this poster as well. I don't know what happened to it. That was ages ago. This was a film from 1997. but I will watch it either today or tomorrow, because I've not actually watched the film probably in about 10 years. Where we're going to finish now on the final segment with the figures as they're going to be displayed back onto my cabinet section. And let's come in close on this guy, and I do prefer him with the Kalashnikovs. He's been a quite fiddly one to pose because he's got the kind of biggest cape, but I do love my sculpted capes. And the sword, you can just about make it out, it's been attached back onto that sort of chain belt, and I do like that. And then Raven, I think he was the most difficult. I have to find the right kind of balance on this figure for me to get the right pose, but I had to be quick, even though we're on 25 minutes approaching 26 minutes. But I've enjoyed posing Ninja Spawn the most because I wanted to show you guys what that can do when you stand him on one leg to get the martial arts effect. And I do hope you've enjoyed what I've been doing. Thank you for your comments. You know what, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I don't mind criticism because it does help me. I enjoy posing figures. Maybe it's not your cup of tea, but that's the reason I buy my figures. And I don't collect too many variants because I like to space them out and pose them like the things you've seen today. I've done this stuff and put them back in my display, and it's just great to sit in a room and watch your figures in the poses you put them in. But at the end of the day, each to their own. I wished I could have got that bit of technology that my friend gifted me into the equation, because it gives off different kinds of coloured light and creates a better mood and ambience, which is why I decided to, for the first time, put on camera a candle. But I don't think it made much difference. So at the end of the day, guys, I say thanks for watching. We are now at 27 minutes. A couple of nights ago, I got it to just over 10 minutes with the X-Men review, but sometimes you got to bite the bullet. So on that note, I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.